Yeah, so just before I do the non-duality introduction, because I always like to start introducing what non-duality is before I go into the topic of the talk. But just because it's a bit of a bomb title, what's it called? What's that word again called? Like a you know, when it's grabbing people's attention on YouTube. What's that? I've forgotten what that's called. When you do that, like a bomb title. Dun dun dun. I just want to say that I don't know with Khalissie what her prognosis is. Like, none of us know what our prognosis is in this life. Like, I could cark it before next talk next week. I could cark it in the middle of this talk. So we never know those things. I went to the vet a few weeks ago and they said that she had a murmur on her heart and that she needed to get an ultrasound. So we went for an ultrasound, and yeah, and her heart's pumping the wrong way and it made her heart swell up. And I didn't think it was that big a deal. You know, she's 10 years old, and I was like, yeah, you know, we're going to get ill and that's what's going to happen. And I thought, you know, maybe she's only got most probably life expectancy of 15 years old. And then I looked it up on the internet, and that's never a good thing to do. And then I had to have a bit of a cry. But my partner also looked it up on the internet and he found out some other things. So who knows? We see the vet next Wednesday, and so I'll find out more information about that. I wanted to say it in a talk because I don't want to just come on and lots of people know Khalissie that have been to my events and watched me for years and just be like, oh, she passed. It's like a preparation that she is 10 years old and she has got a heart problem now. And I also thought it was a good thing to talk about because it's always kind of good for me to talk about things that are happening in my life because it's more inspirational for me to talk about, or it brings up more words, if you know what I mean. Yeah. Yeah, we love Khalissie, and I also thought as well, because I do sort of believe in this sort of stuff, this mumbo jumbo talk, that you can just send Khalissie really good thoughts and vibes. I understand that she's got to pass, but she's so healthy, you wouldn't know there's anything wrong with her. I really didn't expect such a big problem because she's like a puppy sometimes. Yeah, she's a beauty. But anyway, I'll talk more about it in the talk. I just wanted to say that, so if you'd only tuned in to hear about Khalissie, you could hear about it straight away rather than me talk about non-duality first. Okay, so I always like to talk about non-duality before I talk about the title, although death and letting go is kind of really synonymous with non-duality. So that might come in quite quickly. So what is non-duality? And why do I even keep mentioning the title non-duality? Roger Castillo, who was one of my teachers, he doesn't even like to call it that. And I know some other friends who are speakers as well who don't even like to call it non-duality. I don't know what else to call it. I talk about I say to people in general, I teach philosophy, like Indian or Eastern philosophy. Yeah. So non-duality on the absolute level is the recognition that you aren't the body, you aren't the mind, you aren't thoughts, you aren't your ideas. You aren't your past, future experiences. There is something else in this moment that you are. And that something is beyond time, it's beyond logic, anything that you can comprehend. Yeah. And I call it consciousness. I think I have done for years now, and I'm always like saying it as if I'm calling it consciousness for the first time. But it's also deeper than that. But it begins to run out of words, and so consciousness is just a good place to stop, and then you can discover the next part, because that will eventually come and present itself. So we just present the consciousness part. But in some ways, it's like I can also see how confusing the idea of consciousness could be. There she is. She's just having a bark to tell me that she's arrived. That's what she does. Actually, she's most probably saying, sort of like checking out, seeing if I've got chicken. Is the chicken? Woman, have you got the chicken? You haven't? Okay, I'll lay down. If you have, I want some. I'm here. Look how beautiful I am. Woman, I want the chicken. Yeah. So, I mean, what you are is absolute freedom. What you are can't be found in time. It can't be found in something that's coming or something that's gone. It can't be found in having a nice life or lining up everything so it's easy. It cannot be found in time. It can only be found in what you are. And just kind of, in one way, I feel like it sounds like nonsense. Like, if you told regular people this, that there is a freedom in experience, there's a freedom that's always here, that never leaves, it'd just be like, you what, love? You be taking your medication, have you? And the thing that I love about this message is that it's accessible for everybody. It's not exclusive to me or to any teacher or to good people, to rich people, to the government, to what we consider important people, successful people, really creative people, actors, actresses, whatever you deem as like better than thou. It's no more available to them. Because it's in all things equally. It is all things equally. It's non-duality. It's not two. And there can be this resonance with what I'm talking about, where there's like, it's on the tip of your tongue. It's like, yeah, Lisa, I know what you're talking about. This is it. This is it. It's the I am side, the beingness side is like love, absolute love, like totally at home in itself. totally at home. Your true essence doesn't want anything. You don't have to perform like a good monkey in order to get treats. You don't have to find it in the next person, in behavior, in what you're going to do. It's right here. Right here. Right here. And I feel like part of the problem of humanity is the belief that you are just this character and everything else is other than you. Everything else is different from you. But when you come back to realizing the absolute, everything is you. And then even if you take it down onto the human level, like the human isn't separate from everything else. It's etched out by everything it interacts with. There isn't like a good you and all these people that have made you do bad and see bad and think bad. It's kind of like they are an aspect of you as everything. And then in the human level, it's like you can never be separate from that which you interact with. Like we so love pointing fingers in our society, and it's appropriate to do, like in terms of like if you're in an abusive relationship and understanding like manipulative behaviors in order to encourage your body to interact with other people, but it's not really true. It's not ultimately true. Yeah, we can say, oh, that person's a manipulative person, best to stay away from them until they learn how to interact on a more healthy level. But it's not really true, because it's all you and it's all aspects of yourself. Like everything you are as a character cannot be separated out from everything that interacts with. Which is just so spectacular. It's like magic. It's like if you looked at like the galaxy or a star or a supernova, like particularly a supernova, like when we look at it from a distance, it's, you know, it looks like one thing, like these colors that are all merged into each other. But as you zoom in, you begin to realize there's different aspects which make up this one like picture of a supernova. And that's the same for us. It's like when we zoom in, it seems like there's these different people with free will and doing all these different things. But when we zoom out, you see it's like a dance that cannot be separated out from each other. Like the ocean, like it's not like part of the ocean can just suddenly stand up and be separate from the rest of the ocean. It's like one movement inevitably. It's like, you know, it moves over here and then affects all of it. Like none of the water can be extrapolated out in the ocean and say, okay, this little bit of water is taken out. We can take it out of the ocean and hold it up to the sky and call it a raindrop, or we could call it a drink, like put a cup in. But when it's in the ocean, it's like one movement, which is so beautiful. And like all the water is dependent on all the other water by the way it moves, the way the currents go, the winds go, the animals go. So beautiful. I just can't explain the love that is, like, and how much love and excitement and peace and beauty that is, to really realize that on such a deep level, that it's there in every moment. There is this recognition of the oneness of everything. Everything is free. And we are that. It's absolute love. Love, 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 love. Like, And I'm not like intellectually perfect in my clarity. I speak more like a poet, I think. I don't speak like blip, 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 blip. 1 equals 2 equals 3 equals 4, do, and you do this and you do that, and boop, 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 boop. Like on the human level, I'm not really a sure character. I don't really know what you do to get to enlightenment. But I feel like when we're speaking about it, there's like something magical that happens. It's like a presence that happens. It's like a meditation, like knowing it. Like I used to go to these non-duality teachers, and it wasn't like I was going there for intellectual clarity, but it was like a meditation. Like I could taste it, like meeting in truth, like it was. But it wasn't like, you got to do this, you got to do that, do, and it wasn't like giving hope to me. It was kind of beside the point. But I can also understand how having intellectual clarity can be super helpful for the person, and I'm not opposed to that, but I just warn you that I don't think that's my skills. Like I don't think I can, like, I think I changed the way I speak, and I feel like it's more of a, like, I was going to say orgasmic, organic movement. Orgasmic organic movement. Yeah. And it loves you, every part. So you might feel rejected and abandoned by humans, but on your absolute level, like who you truly are, loves every part of the character. It's like a love affair. Every mistake it's made, every argument it's had, every bad action, every manipulative, self-centered, narcissistic, grandiose, boastful, revengeful, jealous. It loves it all. Like, I mean, what other religion says that? I'm not saying this is religion, but it's kind of been in there, you know, in Hinduism and Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism, Zen. But what other philosophy says that every negative part of you is loved equally? I suppose in like Christianity, there is this sense that if you confess your sins, you're loved equally. Like God loves everybody. But if you don't, you're sent to hell. And this is the beauty of non-duality. It doesn't reject you. This moment never rejects you. And this is your peace in everything. In the war zone, in the catastrophe, in the tsunami, in war. This is the freedom. This is the freedom. This is all you ever wanted, ironically. And also not. I was speaking with somebody the other day doing an interview, and they had their awakening. They had like the consciousness recognition. It was like, everybody wants this. And then they had the nothing recognition, or the emptiness, and they're like, yeah, nobody wants that. I can't get that out of my head, that everybody wants this. Oh yeah, nobody wants that. Which is so true. So how this manifests in the human is like a deep relaxation into the human's dynamics. It doesn't mean that you're perfect, because that is impossible. That's a delusion of the seeking self. but it's like a deep relaxation into like a more authentic you. And I wouldn't call that authentic you enlightened, because I think that's too grandiose. I would just say it's like just being authentically you. So not afraid to be vulnerable, to be wrong, to be embarrassed, to be shamed. Like all of that's okay. To be poor, to be left out, to fail. It's all okay. Doesn't mean that there's not an attempt to fix or rectify some of these things, but it's really this deep relaxation into everything is okay. Because all problems are time bound, are in thoughts. Like, where is the problem now? And they're also in emotions which are time bound. I know that sounds weird, but they are. Like, everything that's happening in the human is time bound. The only thing that's not time bound is what you are, which is this no thing and everything, this consciousness or empty looking and I am. And then everything else is coming and going. So even emotions are something that's moving through in a similar way that thoughts do. So there's no salvation in emotions. And this waking up, there's like a lack of attachment to emotions, to thoughts. So they lose their intensity. It doesn't mean that they all go. I feel like you need an imprint of being a person. Otherwise you wouldn't be able to function in this society. I don't know, when we evolve and when we change as a society, maybe it looks differently, but currently, like, you need a character in order to interact that has, you know, issues in a way. I mean, that's part of what the character has, that doesn't like X, Y, Z. I mean, not even that that's issues, but I mean, like, you know, well, just take a really simple one. The English people are really conditioned to drink black tea and milk. And it's like really ingrained into our culture, like more so I think than any food that I can think of. Like a cup of tea and milk is so ingrained, and it's really unthinkable to English people that in the rest of Europe, maybe in America as well, I'm not sure about America, but particularly the rest of Europe, they don't drink black tea with milk. And when you ask for a tea here, they'll say, what type? And an English person's like, well, a tea. But they mean in mainland Europe, like, do you want a herbal tea? Like, it's not just that tea is black tea with milk. I always find this really funny. But it's so ingrained in us, you know, and you can see that this is like childhood conditioning. It's not just like English people are born genetically to have a predisposition towards tea. It's like a cultural thing that we're taught. And so you could say that's like a deep conditioning from childhood. And English people can get really offended if you're rude about their tea. You know, don't be rude about English people's tea, because a lot of other people, English people, don't like English tea, or not English tea, but like tea with milk. They don't like that. And English people can be very defensive of what we consider tea. But this is like a real strong conditioning. And you could say, like, you could like line up with like a childhood conditioning of, say, having a really strong conditioning to boast. So it's no different in a way. Like, being conditioned to like tea is no different from being conditioned to be a boaster or a bragger. So if you feel insecure about something, like the way your parents might have conditioned you is to brag about it. So I used to have a friend that did this. As if they didn't like something, I realized after time that they would really brag about how wonderful it was. It was such a bizarre thing, and then I would discover that actually they were a bit embarrassed by it, and like they were just like bigging it up to you to try and get you to see it as better than what it is, and like make out that they like it, and this was their defense. And so when awakening happens, like, you're most probably not going to lose your desire for tea, and you might not lose this desire to brag. It most probably, for sure almost, it will not be seeking anymore. So you won't need to do this bragging in order to get love from the other person, because love is who you are. But it'll be a conditioned response when does something that people don't like or that you feel ashamed of, to start speaking about it like it's the most wonderful thing, and it might be really unconscious. So it's not like all these things just go away, because this is what makes our characters. Like Khalissie, I think, has a dynamic where, and I think it's maybe genetic, is that whenever she's ill or in pain, she really tries hard not to show it. So and so like she's got arthritis, and I didn't realize for a long time, because she really tries hard to look like she's okay all the time. And that's most probably because street dogs have to do that. Like if they have weakness, then it's attackable. I even see them do that. Khalissie wants to kill weak dogs. That's the ones she wants to fight with, is the weak ones, because it's you know, it's all about how much food is left at the end of the day, and if you can kill off a few of the weak ones, then there's more food. So it's like really part of the survival. And Khalissie, to me, is absolutely enlightened, because she can't have a sense of self. She can't feel separate from anything. She is everything automatically. She can't know it intellectually, but she just is it naturally. There's nothing which isn't her. And then we can come to death. So for Khalissie, she doesn't know that she's 10 years old, and she doesn't know that there's a possibility that she might die soon. I mean, like soon is, I mean, she's not going to have that much longer. Like 5 years is really the max for a medium-sized dog. If you've got a smaller dog, it sometimes could go on to 17 or 18. But so there's like whatever her prognosis is, it's not going to be many, many years. But she doesn't have a sense of that, and she doesn't have a sense of there is a me who's got to have a good long life, whereas humans think and believe this. And it's such a crazy thought, because who's got to have a good long life? Like right here, there's just this moment. So for Khalissie, there's no like, I'm ill, I'm going to die. There's no fear about it. There is no death, because she's not alive. She doesn't know who she is. She responds to Khalissie because I've trained her to respond to that by giving her treats. She also sometimes runs away when she hears Khalissie, depending on my tone. Although we rarely have conflict, do we, Khalissie? Yeah, I mean, it's been years. What she used to do when she's younger is she would, if I didn't give her enough attention, or she wanted feeding and I didn't show any signs that I was going to feed her, she would still steal something and then run down the garden, or run, hide, and eat it, like rip it to shreds. And it was often something I liked. But that's like most probably, I mean, I know she's aggressive, but that's a whole different thing. That's like when you're out on a walk and meeting people. But in the house, she's not really difficult. And I was remembering the other day, because my mum's got a puppy, like when she was a puppy, my parents looked after her when I went and did some talks. And she laid underneath their curtains that had stopped being made, so you couldn't buy any new bits or any new material. And she laid underneath them, and it was like a big room with lots of curtains, like maybe 6 curtains all matching. And she ate the bottoms of them. And then she ate my mum's 800-pound rug as well, yeah. I mean, she did some damage when she was a puppy. Yeah. But she doesn't think, oh, I'm dying now, because who is alive? Who would die to her? Who? Isn't that miraculous? Like, it's so beautiful. And obviously from my side, like, there will be a missing of her when she passes, because we're so bonded. Like, you know, it's like 10 years almost of being together, like 24/7. I rarely leave her. Like, I take her to talks. I don't leave her so much now with people if I go away or anything, because she gets aggressive. So she comes everywhere almost with me, except if she stays at my mum's. Yeah, so You know, there will be intense missing, and it's just so beautiful, our relationship, like this time that we've apparently traveled together. And yeah, there will be great sadness about that. But there's also this element that all time is here now. Like, so she's always here. It's like time, we always look at something like time is this journey that we're venturing in. Whereas I kind of feel intuitively like all time is present. And it's just our brains that are doing something that's experiencing it in this like linear time that moves. Yeah. I always get a sense with Khalissie that she has no time of how long I've been gone. So generally you get the same response if you've been gone 5 minutes or 5 days. Maybe it's a bit longer than 5 minutes, like half an hour or 5 days. It's like the same response. Just a bit dependent on how sleepy she is when she greets you, or how hungry. Yeah. And it is kind of like that. Like Khalissie, my dad's also passed as well, if you've seen the video on YouTube. It's like they're always here with you. You can't ever lose anything. You just lose your mental images and ideas about things. Because that's what outside things are. Like a window is a completely different thing to a bee, to Khalissie, to a slug. It's like our mental imaging, mapping. But this is like really non-logical, and if I was like a science geek, I could maybe explain that in some fancy scientific way and quote lots of references and names and make it sound really fancy dancy and like I know what I'm talking about. But I can't do that because I have a memory of a fish, and so even if I did learn it thinking, oh, I must learn that for a talk in future, I would then forget that I've learned it, so I'd then never repeat it. Yeah, that's the way it goes in this brain. I can never be one of those quoting machines. Yeah. And this is known, so when I'm talking about this stuff, you know, the death and Khalissie, like there is a knowing about this beyond yourself. If you go beyond the mental constructions in the mind, there is a knowing of this innocence that's there, this wonder, this mystery of how magnificently odd and ordinary this world is. That we really have no clue what's going on, but because we keep repeating the same things, seemingly, I mean, we're not even sure that we're repeating the same things, it's just our memory that tells us we are. Like, it tends to seem very ordinary and logical, but it's like really bizarre what's happening. Like even like all the news and all this like outside world of people out there and all the destruction and the global warming and all the problems, like all of this is also constructs of our mind. It's not actually a fact. Like that's such an abstract idea of this public people out there, and the fact that we have this news that always tells us bad news every freaking day. And occasionally, because they're learning now, okay, we'll have one positive story, this dog that was saved by a bee, or a dog that was saved by a cat that was falling down a river, you know, one of these positive stories. Or the dog that walked into the police station when it got lost. But generally it's like, let's just list all the bad things that humans do and that's happening in the environment and send it out to the World Wide Web and through TVs, and then everyone will know what's going on in the world. Oh my God, how many miraculously wonderful, brilliant, beautiful stories also happen. And it's like a construct. We're like constructing our reality as humans. Imagine if we told positive news all the time. It might like completely, profoundly affect the mentality of humans, which would then affect the mentality of government and what we vote in and what we pass as laws. I mean, we don't know shit. I'm just going to start swearing again on my YouTube channel. I stopped it only because YouTube is really anti me at the moment and keeps suppressing my videos. So you must remember to like and subscribe, turn on the bell and the notifications for my videos, because it's in a suppression. I've been very lucky over the years that they liked me, but now I'm on the meh list. I mean, the more precise their algorithms become, the more they kind of like are working out like what's being said. And I just can't imagine that Google really wants to promote non-duality. Because, you know, it's like it's sponsored by all these different things, and I just don't think there's many sponsors out there that are like, yeah, go non-duality. You can find freedom in this moment. You don't need to buy this. You don't need to do that. You don't need to have that. You are free right now. Is just send Google like, what do we recommend then? It's not based on consumerism. Glitch in the system. Yeah, so when you're watching non-duality videos, not just mine, but any that you like, make sure you always like them and subscribe. Get those positive vibes out in the world. Okay, let's just go back to the title one more time, just to see if there's anything that I left off from it. Everything we know and love will in time disappear. Yeah, I mean, I didn't exactly talk about that. Pardon me. Yeah. Like everything, it's all mind-made. Like your parents, your family, your lover. I'm not saying don't have it. I'm not saying like go now and flush it all down the toilet and just like jump off into the middle of like knowing no one. There's like wise ways to live in this society and to have friendships and relationships, but it's all mind-made. Everything, your whole reality. You're the same now. You've got the same freedom now as if you're in a room with all your family and all the ones you love, if they're here, alive or dead. It's the same. And it's just, and like if you zoom out or zoom in, you'll notice it's all the same. But it's like we have these short lives which look like we're having like all these differences and all these like special magical stories, whereas it's, in a way, it's on repeat, like a kaleidoscope, you know, repeating, but just in different formations. It's the same. Everywhere you look, here is your dad. Everywhere you look is your mom. Everywhere you look is Khalissie. Khalissie. Everywhere you look is me, is your lover, is your partner, is your brother, is your sister, is, you know, is your TV stars. It's the same energy. And it's so beautiful. This means that the tramp on the side of the road and the person that is a multi-millionaire, successful, everyone wants to be around, is the same. The same. The same. Equal amount of beingness. And it is your dad, because it's all got the same consciousness looking through, the same energy that it's made up of, just looks different, and your brain is supporting that. Your brain isn't separate from anything that it's interacting with. It's one dance, and like everything is seemingly interacting to create different formations and different kaleidoscope patterns, different fractals. But it's the same. It's all love. You're never alone, ever. You're always with everything. You always are everything. And we can move it, and then we can speak on the human level of like wisdom. And like, I mean, I used to get confused when I was learning this subject that if everybody was the same, I had to treat everybody the same. Yeah, that was a bit silly. I was so extremist with all of this. I thought, but everybody's got different energies that they come with, and like you've got to learn how to, as a human on the human level, like how to put boundaries up to inappropriate behavior. But I thought because we're all the same, and like your job is to have like ultimate love and ultimate compassion. Even if someone's being an asshole, you've got to treat them as if they're being like the princess, the most amazing, kind, godly person. Like you got to treat, you know, Ramana the same as like the pedophile. And that was a mistaken idea. Like that's not wise on the human level. You learn how to do that, but you don't have to hate the pedophile. Like it's the same energy. It's like love. But you might want to put up a good, strong boundary with them. Not necessarily, depends on how they're interacting with that. I don't know what we call pedophilia. Is it a disease? But there can be pedophiles that are completely aware of their pedophilic desires and they're totally in control of it and don't act it out. You know, which is something really admirable. Yeah, nobody wants to be born having these urges, and often they're not born like that. I mean, sometimes it is a genetic thing, but sometimes it's also from abuse. Well, and so on the human level, there's wisdom in learning about dynamics. And, you know, your life is going to be easier if you've got people in your life that you trust, that you feel safe with and that are honest. And that, you know, like are positive and like wanting to grow and expand their heart, their views, their ideas. I mean, if you're just filled with people that are like depressed and negative and struggling and suffering and like closed ideas and not wanting to change and stuck, it's like, you know, it's a different life. There's also the possibility to have people and a life where people are expanding as well with you, as you. But ultimately, it's all the same. It's the same. You never can ultimately lose someone. They're with you in everything. They are everything. Yeah. And your essence, your true self is absolute love. Love, 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 love. So this recognition, if it's dead or cold or removed, it's not what's being talked about here. It's got love. There can be a waking up where there's just a waking up to more in emptiness, but that's not complete. It's what I'm talking about is love. There also can be personality disorders or issues where it's like there's an emptiness, like a cold emptiness, and this isn't what it is, or a depressed emptiness. If it doesn't contain love and expansiveness, we're not talking about the same thing. I think. In the end, I can't be sure of the way in which you're relating to my words, but generally I would suspect that's right. Okay, so we can now go to questions.